Hey everyone, Jordan here at Totally Bored. Today I want to talk about 4 games that have replaced other games in my collection. First up, we have a game called Terraforming Mars. Now, if you have never heard of this game, this is an engine building game where you're taking on the role of a corporation and you're working semi-cooperatively with those around you to make Mars habitable. You're going to be doing this by raising the temperature, raising the oxygen level. You can do things like plant trees and add water to the planet, and even cities. So there's a lot going on in this game. And this is a top 10 BGG game for a reason. I think it's number 6 at the time of this recording. I love Terraforming Mars. So the fact that anything replaced this is actually pretty crazy, even when I say it out loud. This is a game that I'm never going to sell, so let that be known. This is still staying in my collection, but it currently has been replaced by another Euro-style game, which some people will debate that, but this is Ark Nova. Now, Ark Nova is a game where you're creating a zoo and you're trying to do a lot of different things like work on conservation efforts. You're going to work on the appeal of your zoo by adding all kinds of unique animals to it. You even have a reputation track, how reputable your zoo is. And there is a ton of mechanisms in this game. You're going to have tile placement. You're going to have worker placement. You're going to have action selection. You have a tableau, just as you do in Terraforming Mars. And so there is a lot of stuff going on. And there are a few similarities between these two games. I think, I've heard a lot of people say that you can't compare these. I think that's not accurate. I think they are similar in a variety of ways, but definitely very, very different. And one of the main similarities is you have a tableau, and these cards that you play have tags on them, which are certain requirements or certain conditions in order to play other cards. And so that it does feel very similar, in the two games. But I don't know what it is about Ark Nova. Possibly the theme, which I love animals, not too big on the space theme, so that's probably a big thing for me. But also the combination of mechanisms in this just creates something that is so masterfully done. And I think the design by Matthias Vigge it's crazy. I mean, I've only been in the hobby for about a year, and I can just tell that this game is just so beautiful. It's not really pushing the boundaries as far as like what it's implementing. There's no new mechanisms that have never been seen before, but it takes all of these mechanisms that we've seen throughout the years and combines them into this really, really awesome experience. And ever since I got this, I really just don't have an urge to play Terraforming Mars, honestly. On top of owning Ares Expedition, which I prefer a little bit more than Terraforming Mars due to the playtime, Ark Nova surpasses both of them by a long shot for me. So this is my first pick, and I'm really curious what you guys think, if you have a preference of Ark Nova or Terraforming Mars over the other. But overall, I love both games. Terraforming Mars isn't leaving, but as of right now, it has definitely been replaced by Ark Nova. Next up, we have Camel Up. Now, Camel Up is a game that was recommended to me pretty early on in my board game career, and this is a game about betting on camels racing. And essentially, you'll be rolling dice, which determine which camel moves and how many spaces it's going to move. And you also have crazy camels who are racing backwards on the track, and they can pick up camels and move them backwards, and it kind of messes up the whole race, and it makes it really fun and exciting. And this is a solid game. This is definitely a game I think is great for all ages. Every time I've played it, though, it feels a little underwhelming. I feel like there's not a lot of tension. There's not a lot of buildup. It just felt a little flat. And ever since I played this game, I really have had no urge to play Camel Up. And this is Ready, Set, Bet. Now, this is another racing game, and you're betting on a horse race. And the horses will be racing either via an app, or you can also have a player-controlled race where someone's rolling dice, and then that determines which horse moves, kind of similarly to Camel Up. But I feel like the tension is so much higher in Ready, Set, Bet. So you have a shared board, and you're going to have different spots for win, place, and show, which is essentially you're betting on who comes first, second, or third. And these spots are finite. So there's only 3 spots for the winner. So it's kind of like first come, first serve. So if you really think the number 7 horse is going to win, you only have 3 people who can bet on that. And once those 3 spots are taken up, it's over. So you got to bet on something else or kind of forget about betting on that horse. And that adds a lot of tension on top of having this app or this person that's controlling the race and you're watching the race and it's intense. You've also got to make sure you're betting appropriately, because if you wait too long, you're going to miss your chance. But you also don't want to bet too early because you could be way off depending on what dice get rolled and where the horses are at on the track. And all of that combines into this crazy, hectic, fun, tense game that I really, really love. And ever since I bought this game, it has 100% replaced Camel Up for me. Third up on the list, we have Marvel Champions. Now, if you like Marvel and the Marvel Universe, buy this game right now. This game is incredible. I love Marvel Champions. This is a living card game where you are behind the suit of your favorite hero. You're playing cards that are all super thematic and really make you feel like you are that superhero. And you're facing off against popular villains like Rhino, Claw, and Ultron in the core set. And then if you branch out into expansions, you have all kinds of heroes and villains that you can play as and fight against. So this game is really, really good if you're into that universe. And this has been replaced by a very similar living card game, and maybe not one you might think it is. This is Lord of the Rings, the living card game. Now, this is also made by Fantasy Flight. So this is kind of the OG, and this is as far as mechanically and how the game is structured, very similar. So if you know how to play one, you probably know how to play the other one, or at least can pick it up very quickly. And the reason this has got replaced by Lord of the Rings is that, well, a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that I love Lord of the Rings. That universe is my favorite one of any other universe in the world ever. So obviously I'm going to probably prefer this to Marvel. But I also got this during the Nerds Day sale this year from Game Nerds, and I got the core set as well as the Fellowship of the Ring Saga expansion. So I have a lot of content to go through. And, you know, a lot of my friends that I play with, we've played Marvel Champions and they loved it. But a lot of them also love Lord of the Rings. They're also fanatics, kind of like myself. And so it's kind of an easy choice on what we really want to play and what we prefer. And we are currently just going through the core set, or the revised core set right now. And it's been a lot of fun. It is very different in the fact that, in Marvel Champions, you're playing as one hero, whereas in Lord of the Rings, you're actually playing 3 at the same time. So that element is pretty different, but I really love being able to put myself in control of these popular Lord of the Rings characters like Legolas, Aragorn, Gimli, and a lot more. And it just feels so cool seeing all the cards that you can play that fit the lore and just fit the theme, and everything about it just screams Lord of the Rings, obviously. Fantasy Flight does a great job at making things really match the theme and bring the theme out of games. And for that reason, Lord of the Rings has replaced Marvel Champions. I'm not going to sell this, and I will probably revisit it in the future, but for now, this game has my full attention. The fourth and final game that has been replaced in my collection is a game very near and dear to my heart. This is Patchwork by Uwe Rosenberg. This is a game I play all the time with my mom over the holidays. I played this with my sister, my girlfriend, and pretty much anyone else I've introduced this to really likes it. In this game, you are trying to make the most beautiful quilt. You're going to be doing that by selecting patches on your turn and placing them on your player board. And then throughout the course of the game, you want to try to fill up most of the player board, or as much of the player board as you can, and then try to get the most buttons at the end of the game. Buttons are the game's currency. So super accessible, super fun. But if I'm thinking polyomino, there's one game that I want to play. And if you've seen my top 10, you might already know what this is. This is a quite a bit heavier of a game, but this is called Planet Unknown. Now, in Planet Unknown, you're taking on the role of an asymmetric corporation, and you're trying to terraform your asymmetric planet to the best of your ability. And you're going to be doing that by selecting one of a lot of different polyomino tiles that are in a Lazy Susan. So on your turn, you get to spin the Lazy Susan around, select any tile you want, and then place it on your planet. Whenever you place the tile down, depending on what terrain is on that tile, you are going to move up its respective track on a separate player board. So let's say I have a polyomino tile that has a rover on it as well as water. Now, if I play it on my player board, I will then get to move up the water track and the rover track. So throughout the course of the game, you have both the tile placement aspect of it as well as the track aspect of it, and it can lead to these really fun strategic turns that can really like snowball the course of the game. There are little synergy boosts on the tracks which act as a wild. So anytime you move up onto a synergy boost, you can move up any other tracker or the same one again, and it just leads to these really fun turns that are just so exciting and so much fun. And on top of it just being a really good polyomino game, there are also a lot of elements of indirect player interaction that I really like. So like I mentioned, whenever you're selecting your tile from the Lazy Susan, you're gonna lock in on what's called a depot, which is one of two areas in the Lazy Susan that are directly in front of you. And whenever you select that tile, everyone else that is playing is also going to get to choose a tile, but they're just limited to wherever you stop the Lazy Susan in front of their player marker, which I think is so cool. So there's a lot of simultaneous play. It's kind of chaotic, and I love that. Everyone's placing their tiles, trying to figure out the best tile they can choose, and it's just so cool. I love it. And on top of that, you also have shared objectives with the player on your left and the player on your right. So on top of trying to figure out the best tile for you, you're also looking over and making sure you can beat the player on your right at this objective, which might be place the most water tiles. Or, I'm also trying to look at the person on my left in that objective, which might be make the most biomass areas on your map that are separate from one another, which is biomass is like the forest in the game. And so you have a lot of elements that you're juggling, but I think it makes it so much fun, and it's actually really easy. It kind of sounds like it's a lot of information and sort of overloads you in the beginning, but turns are really simple. You choose a tile, place it down, move the tracker up. That's pretty much it. And the game plays in about an hour, which is amazing for this supporting up to 6 players, and it supports it really well. And so all of these things combined make me want to play this over Patchwork pretty much any day. I think the only time I would even consider Patchwork is if I'm playing at 2 players, which I've played Planet Unknown at 2 players and it plays amazing. So I feel bad. Uwe. This game's really good. A Feast for Odin's my current, #1 game of all time. So I love your take on it, and I love Patchwork, but I'm sorry, Planet Unknown takes the cake, and this has fully replaced Patchwork for me. And those are the 4 games that have been replaced in my collection. If you guys have played either the games that I've replaced or the games I've replaced them with, let me know which ones you prefer in the comments. This is Jordan here at Totally Bored. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.